Wolf Sazen was a Jedi Master during the Legacy era, amidst the New Jedi Order. Once the Padawan of Luke Skywalker's grandson, Cole Skywalker, he was present during the attack on Ossus, in which Darth Krayt's Sith Empire sought to completely eradicate the Jedi once again. Having sustained extremely dire wounds at the hands of the warlord-made Sith, Darth Nihil, Wolf was brought back from the edge of death by his brash Padawan, Cade Skywalker, the son of Cole. Amidst Cade's self-exile and subsequent degradation to a life of piracy and death-stick addiction, Wolf Sazen searched tirelessly for his former apprentice, despite the consensus among the few surviving Jedi that he was indeed dead. After being reunited by the will of the Force 7 years later, it was not until after many confrontations with the Sith, unlikely alliances, and Cade's constant embraces in the dark side that Wolf was able to bring his former Padawan back to the light. Just before Cade's final confrontation with Darth Krayt, Wolf Sazen engaged Darth Strife, which both Jedi and Sith had landed critical blows upon their counterpart. Both were killed by their injuries, but Wolf Sazen's body had vanished from his robes, insinuating he had retained his identity through death and lived on as a Force ghost. Wolf Sazen was a loyal vessel of the light side of the Force, and despite the terrible odds stacked against him, had largely persevered in his quest to reunite the Jedi and put an end to Darth Krayt's rule as an Emperor. Qui-Gon Jinn was born 92 years before the Battle of Yavin. The former apprentice of the once highly esteemed Master Dooku, Master Jedi Qui-Gon Jinn had trained 3 Padawans in his time in the Jedi Order. His last was a young man by the name of Obi-Wan Kenobi. It was amidst the Naboo crisis that he discovered the beginnings of a legacy when he encountered the young boy Anakin Skywalker. After his death during the end of the Naboo crisis at the hands of the Sith assassin Darth Maul, Anakin was given to Obi-Wan as a Padawan, in accordance with Qui-Gon's last dying wishes. However, Qui-Gon Jinn's part was not yet over. Having held his identity through death, Qui-Gon returned as a Force ghost to assist both Yoda and Obi-Wan in times of need. He passed on his knowledge of the Force to them so they remained themselves after death as well. Eventually, this knowledge would allow Ben Kenobi to convene with Luke Skywalker, who is destined to reunite the Jedi and become a new Jedi Order. Having been seen as a Grey Jedi and a Maverick by his peers, Qui-Gon was the cornerstone of the Jedi's return and ultimately made the first step in fulfilling the prophecy. For the purposes of this video, we will be referencing these characters' abilities right before the time of their death. Wolf Sazen was a member of the Zabrak species, granting him resistance to physical pain and a second heart. Taking a reasonable assumption of his age, I estimate Wolf Sazen to be in his mid to late 30s by the time of his death, as his appearance showed no signs of aging during the Legacy series. Wolf Sazen had suffered the loss of his arm in the Battle of Ossus due to his encounter with Darth Nihil. Wolf reluctantly used a prosthetic arm on occasion, however was perfectly capable of performing without it, to the point where it seemed like hardly a handicap at all. For the purposes of this fight, we will assume he is making use of his cybernetic limb. Wolf Sazen also possessed impressive endurance, able to take prolonged fights against multiple opponents. Although it should be noted he has his limits, of course. As someone who has the odds repeatedly stacked against him, Wolf Sazen does not quit easily, as made evident in the life of survival he was forced to live after the events on Ossus. Qui-Gon Jinn was 60 years old at the time of his death, and certainly was faced with the complications of his age, so much to the point that he had to further personalize his fighting style in order to compensate for it. That being said, he still possessed greater strength than most Jedi, and substituted the normal flurried attacks and acrobatics with imposing force. He can make use of acrobatics if needed to a limited degree, and will do so as the situation requires. Like Wolf, Qui-Gon does have his limits, especially made evident in both of his encounters with Darth Maul. He is seemingly susceptible to opponents that use very energetic and fast-paced forms, as he can quickly become fatigued from such duels. Some may point to the duel of fates against Darth Maul, and rationalize that he was able to withstand Sith's offense for the majority of the fight. However, in this particular fight, he did have Obi-Wan's assistance, as well as time to recover his energy. In Qui-Gon's first duel with Darth Maul, he did not fare so well, quickly becoming exhausted by the assassin's offense. But Qui-Gon is by no means a flimsy old man. As seen in his numerous fights with his fallen apprentice Xanatos, as well as his final fight with Darth Maul, Qui-Gon Jinn can take some serious blows and recover impressively fast. Qui-Gon Jinn has some impressive strength working for him, but is inevitably outperformed by Wolf Sazen when it comes to physicality. Wolf Sazen is much slower to exhaust, and does not suffer the penalties of old age. Although Qui-Gon is definitely stronger, I believe Wolf Sazen's durability is on par with Qui-Gon's due to his Zabrak physiology and younger age. Ultimately, I believe greater endurance is more beneficial in this particular matchup than physical strength, and so for that reasoning, I am giving Wolf Sazen the physical edge. Wolf Sazen's chosen lightsaber forms are not ever revealed to us, but given from his multiple encounters, I think I can reasonably infer his chosen styles. I believe Wolf Sazen was a staunch practitioner of both Form 4 Ataru and Form 5 Xian variation. Ataru is an offensive form heavily focused on acrobatic maneuvers with wide and flurried slashes in mind, requiring significant energy expenditure from the practitioner. Xian was a variation of Form 5 that was seen as a more offensive alternative to Form 3. This variation focused on granting its user a solid defense against both blaster and saber-wielding opponents, while focusing on strong and rapid counterattacks as well as large cleaving motions. A minority of Xian practitioners utilize a reverse grip, as practicality is something of debate among many lightsaber duelists. Examining Wolf's fighting styles, we can actually see that he uses two different methods of lightsaber dueling. On the rare occasion that he utilized a prosthetic arm, he most often remained grounded in battle, leaning more on his Xian knowledge to push him through, making use of his standard grip. As such, he was capable of making powerful and wide swings, while also granting himself a solid defense against multiple attackers. However, when he had only one arm at his disposal, he relied much heavier upon Ataru, and made use of a reverse grip. Having only one arm to hold his saber, he suffers the same penalties associated with dual lightsaber practitioners, while also gaining none of the advantages. These penalties include susceptibility to losing one's grip on the weapon, a weaker guard, as well as less power in one's strikes. Wolf Sazen was completely aware of these weaknesses, and as such, he developed his style to compensate for them. Defensively, he made force-enhanced movements in order to completely avoid attacks rather than meet them head-on. To create a viable offense, he relied heavily upon acrobatics and his reverse grip to quickly dispatch enemies with overwhelming speed, rather than meeting them with handicapped strength. Given the several examples of Wolf making use of both of these methods, I find it a fair deduction for them to be equal in their effectiveness, although this one-armed method is certainly more physically demanding. In addition, he was able to best the enraged Cade Skywalker in a fistfight without the use of his prosthetic, clearly displaying that he had gone great lengths to train himself to overcome this injury. That being said, it is important to note that Wolf Sazen seemingly do not fare quite as well against single fighters, clearly a result of Xian's weakness in doing so. However, in the event that Wolf were to lose the use of his prosthetic, it will do little to nothing to hamper his ability, and he will simply change his dueling method to persevere. Qui-Gon Jinn was considered to be the duelist of the top tier among the Jedi Order. Qui-Gon was remarkably adamant Form 4 Ataru practitioner. Qui-Gon had constantly sparred with his former master Dooku before his fall of dark side, and as such gained invaluable experience in combating a variety of different lightsaber forms. However, nearing his old age, he found his chosen form too physically demanding to remain viable, as he was beginning to tire easily, and found that he could not make the use of acrobatic movements to the same effectiveness he had in the past. As such, he rebuilt his fighting style in a way that would make him largely grounded, and replace his past agility with more power in his wide swings. As such, Qui-Gon was able to keep pace with fighters much younger than he was, as seen in his encounters with Aurra Sing, as well as his fallen apprentice, Xanatos, all who which were at the peak of their physicality. In addition to Qui-Gon's adjustments to Ataru, he was remarkably adept in blaster deflection, normally a severe weakness in his chosen fighting form. This sort of customization only further makes evident his rigorous dedication in perfecting his fighting style, openly recognizing Ataru's weaknesses as well as his own physical limitations. Having been so conscious of these characteristics, he is able to adapt to them, and it was noted in also applying the sort of rationale when locked in combat, Rather than pursue a specific strategy, he made further adjustments to his fighting style as his opponent's actions demanded, allowing him to become more versatile than most lightsaber duelists of his era. In addition to his impressive skill with the lightsaber, he famously implemented punches and kicks into his offense, again making use of his impressive strength. Although on paper it seems that Qui-Gon is simply a one-trick pony, a closer examination of his fighting style says he's anything but a singular in his capability. Both of these Jedi are highly versatile, able to take on multiple approaches to combat situations, and are as such given an edge over many other duelists who are unable to do so. Although Qui-Gon is more advanced in age than his Zabrak counterpart, his refinement and Ataru allow him to keep pace with those younger than himself to a point. Wolf Sazen will find it difficult to defend against Qui-Gon from the start as well, as he relies on Xian to prove himself a defensive posture, a form with fundamental weaknesses in fighting off single fighters. Furthermore, in the event that Wolf changes his fighting style to a more Ataru-focused method, I simply believe Qui-Gon capable of withstanding his attack, as he is able to do so for a respectable period of time against Darth Maul, and Wolf Sazen is just not frankly anywhere near as unrelenting or imposing in force. Qui-Gon Jinn is awarded the advantage in martial ability, due to his intense refinement of Ataru and attunement to combating a variety of lightsaber forms. Wolf Sazen possessed a strong connection to the Force, and as such was granted numerous visions and premonitions. In addition, he was capable of strong Force sense, capable of picking up life signs of others from reasonable distances away. However, from a purely combative perspective, Wolf Sazen was capable of telekinetic abilities, but rarely ever made use of them. Instead, he focused on using the Force to augment his movements, granting him faster speed and impressive acrobatics. Other than supplementing his use of Ataru, he seemingly did not choose to use the Force when locked in combat. Qui-Gon Jinn was very similar in his use of the Force. He was extremely capable in the Jedi mind trick, something he seemingly used quite often. He often reserved Force use in combat to enhance his movements. He has been seen to be proficient in Force jump and Force speed, and can make the occasional Force enhanced Ataru maneuver if needed. Although he is capable of telekinetics, it seems Qui-Gon did not fluidly implement them into his lightsaber combat, as if it were simply one or the other. For that reason, I do not believe him to make such maneuvers while locked in saber combat, especially against a very quick opponent like Wolf Sazen. However, much like Wolf, Qui-Gon meditated frequently, and as such received many Force visions, proving him to indeed have an immensely strong connection to the Force. These two are remarkably similar in their use of the Force, both reserving its use in combat almost exclusively to enhance movement rather than wield as a weapon. Although it could be argued that Qui-Gon has the greater feats backing him up in his use of the Force, these feats are almost entirely non-combat related, and as such will be useless in a fight against another fully trained Jedi Master. For this reason, I'm giving neither one the advantage in Force skill, as I believe they are equal in its combative applications. This fight will be taking place on the plains of Naboo, just moments before sundown. Both Jedi will have meditated before their confrontation, strengthening their connection to the Force. Each will ignite their sabers, resonating a calm demeanor and enhanced focus, circling about one another. Wolf Sazen will then open with his Xian-focused position, making use of his standard grip. Qui-Gon then moves in with an imposingly strong series of grounded Ataru attacks, making use of flourishes to off-throw his opponent and break past his guard. Wolf Sazen holds his ground and parries, initiating several counterattacks to press Qui-Gon into a defensive position. The Maverick effortlessly blocks the Zabrak's counterattacks and begins taking a much faster paced offensive. Qui-Gon begins attacking from every vantage he can, aiming low to his legs and high to his shoulders, flourishing near his ribcage and then to his knee. Although Wolf Sazen's endurance is able to keep pace, he's becoming exceedingly pressured by his opponent's attacks, unsure where the next strike will land. Wolf manages to lock down Qui-Gon's next swing, but receives a swift backhand, rattling him and throwing him to the ground. Wolf launches himself back to his feet and leaps away from Qui-Gon's saber as it skewers into the ground. Wolf distances himself, flourishing a defensive swing behind his back and covering his retreat. He now recognizes that his Shan-driven method is failing him in this matchup, and as such makes ready to change his approach. He switches his saber to the reverse grip and begins twirling himself at the Great Jedi. Making use of his superior speed, Wolf dodges and ducks beneath Qui-Gon's wide swings and lunges for his legs with the saber. Qui-Gon hops over the swing and lashes out at Wolf's midsection. Again, Wolf maneuvers away from his attack and proceeds with wild acrobatics. Qui-Gon is becoming seriously taxed, his old age getting the better of him amidst Wolf Sazen's sprightly movements. Their blades connect together and lock, and Sazen responds with a hard punch straight into Qui-Gon's nose, bludgeoning him with his metallic arm. A sick crunch rattles in Jinn's nose, and blood streams down onto his tunic. Qui-Gon turns away with a somewhat clumsy blackward flourish to cover his flank, clearly having been seriously wrung by Sazen's prosthetic arm. Seeking to press the advantage, Sazen leaps forward, his saber drawn to his side in preparation for a forceful attack. The force surges around him, guiding him through the air as if he were nothing but an arrow from an archer's bow. All slows down as the die is cast, and the inevitable fall of one is assured. Qui-Gon snaps forward, pivoting away from Wolf's dedicated strike, and thrusts his saber into the Zabrak's exposed chest, emitting a piercing hiss throughout the field. Wolf Sazen slams into Qui-Gon's grasp, and falls to his knees as the Maverick pulls his blade from his opponent's body. As he hits the ground, he lets out a final sigh, and his body vanishes, leaving nothing but his robes and disengaged lightsaber. Qui-Gon picks up the blade of his honorable opponent, marking him the winner of the match. I hope you guys enjoyed that matchup, and thought the pairing of the two was as interesting as I thought. If anyone watching this thinks I am some kind of Qui-Gon fanboy and this match was planned for him to win from the start, just know that that is really, really far from the truth. Personally, I do not enjoy Qui-Gon as a character as most seem to, and I actually like Wolf Sazen a lot more. I really wanted Wolf Sazen to win this matchup, but Qui-Gon is really just the better warrior. That being said, Wolf Sazen has persevered through so much, even despite his physical handicaps, and I find him to be hugely overlooked. Although he didn't win this matchup, I hope anyone who has watched this holds him to a higher standard now. He has killed plenty of Sith in his numerous encounters, regardless of the fact that he was often outnumbered. Well, I think that's enough for me from this video, and I hope you found it agreeable. Until next time guys, and have a great day.